There is a sin that if you don't deal with it, it could potentially destroy you from the inside out. Okay, so I have a confession to make. For years, I struggled with jealousy. And even at times right now, I do as well. I can think of when I was single and I was jealous of all of my married friends because they were all married and I was still stuck being single. And then after I got married, I was jealous of some of my male friends who made a whole lot more money than me. And they were able to put their families in these nice houses, these nice communities and things of that nature. And then when I got on YouTube, I found myself, and even at times I still struggle with this, being jealous of other people's success as it relates to how fast their platform is growing and whatnot. And as a matter of fact, I'm sure you're watching this video now and you could probably think about some situations in your life where maybe you struggle with jealousy. Maybe you're jealous of somebody because they look better than you, or they have a better figure than you, or they have a better personality than you do, or they're more successful than you do, or they make more money than you, or they have more followers on their Instagram, or maybe their church or their ministry is growing quicker than yours. The reality is that all of us struggle with jealousy at various times in our lives. And so what I want to do in this video is I want to share with you three things. First and foremost, I want to talk about how jealousy surfaces in our lives and where it comes from so we can identify it. The second thing I want to look at is what are the dangers of jealousy? So if I allow jealousy to just run rampant in my life, then how may it cause destruction and havoc in my life and ultimately in my relationships? But I don't want to leave you there. I also want to provide some helpful tips, some things that I've been doing in my own personal life to help me overcome some of my feelings of jealousy. And in order to do this, we're going to take a look at a very familiar story in the Old Testament, the story of King Saul and David. So I want you to grab your Bible and meet me in 1 Samuel chapter 18. So to bring you up to speed on what has happened thus far, there is a king whose name is King Saul. And the Bible says that he was handsome and he had it going on. But that was all until a little young upstart, a little young whippersnapper named David hops on the scene, and he becomes instantly famous because he defeats this Goliath, this giant that nobody else in the kingdom had any courage at all to fight. And David defeats this longtime giant whose name is Goliath. And as a result, the people created a song about David. Let's look at it. It says here, when the victorious Israelite army was returning home after David had killed the Philistine, women from all the towns of Israel came out to meet King Saul. They sang and danced for joy with tambourines and cymbals. This was their song. Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000s. Whoa. Okay, we're going to come back to that verse in just a moment, but I want you to notice what happened. This made Saul very angry. What's this? He said, they credit David with 10,000s and me with only thousands. Next, they'll be making him their king. So from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. So first and foremost, I want to investigate some sources. Where does jealousy come from so that we can quickly identify in our lives? And I believe that all three of them can be seen in this one verse in 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 8. So first and foremost, jealousy can surface when other people get more attention than we do. I want you to notice all of the attention that David got that Saul actually wanted to get himself. First and foremost, all the women love David. Now that alone ought to make any man jealous when there's a whole lot more women who are giving attention to David than King Saul. Remember, the women were shouting, hey, David is slain his 10,000, but Saul only his thousands. But not only that, the entire nation loved David. Notice it says here that all Israel and Judah loved David because he was so successful at leading his troops into battle. Not only that, Saul's son Jonathan also loved David. It says here, after David had finished talking with Saul, he met Jonathan, the king's son. There was an immediate bond between them, for Jonathan loved David. And if that wasn't enough, King Saul's daughter also loved David as well. Notice it says here, when Saul realized that the Lord was with David and how much his daughter Michal loved him, Saul became even more afraid of him, and he remained David's enemy for the rest of his life. So, guys, sometimes our jealousy can happen because other people around us are getting more praise, more accolades, and more attention than we are. And sometimes that's just too much for us to deal with, and we find ourselves being overcome with these feelings of jealousy. But the second source of jealousy in our lives is when we compare ourselves to other people. Once again, notice what happens here. Saul says, hey, they've only credited me with thousands, but David 10,000s. So do you see the comparison? Listen, this is what I was doing oftentimes was, hey, I'm only getting this number of views, but this person is getting more views. Or maybe you're doing the same thing. Hey, I only make this much money, but this person is making more money. Hey, this person's children or my children are doing this well, but these people's children over here are exceeding and doing even better. So what happens is when you and I start to compare ourselves with other people's success or what we perceive to be the success of other people, that ultimately can lead to insecurities emerging in our lives and ultimately to jealousy between us and the people that we are comparing ourselves to. But the third source of jealousy that I see here is that sometimes we can become jealous because of our own insecurities. In other words, we can oftentimes be jealous that someone else is going to take something away from us, and we have this fear because we don't want them to take it away. And so as a result, we become jealous, whether that may be a fear that they may take away our power, or they may take away our position, or they may take away possibly our partner in some way. And this is what was happening with King Saul. Notice he says here, this made Saul very angry. What's this? He said, they credited David with 10,000s and me with only thousands. Next, they'll be making him their king. You see this? Because of Saul's extreme insecurities, he was fearful that David was going to come and overthrow his kingdom, which later ultimately happened. But he was afraid because of his own insecurities that something important to him was going to be taken away. And he allowed these insecurities to destroy him from the inside out. And so the second thing that I want to look at in this video is not only how does jealousy surface in our lives, but also what are the dangers of allowing jealousy to become an issue in our lives where we don't deal with it. And the first thing is that if we don't deal with jealousy, my friend, it can lead to depression. Notice what it says here. It says here, so from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. The very next day, a tormenting spirit from God overwhelmed Saul, and he began to rave in his house like a madman. Do you notice what happened here? Almost immediately after Saul invited and allowed this spirit of jealousy to overcome him, there was a tormenting spirit of depression that just overshadowed Saul's life. And my friend, the same thing can happen to you. Let me just tell you, just a few months ago, if I'm just being honest with you, I was dealing with a light bout of depression. And my wife will tell you that there were some days where I was just discouraged. I was discouraged, guys, because I was looking at other people's platforms and I was looking at their YouTube channel and I was looking at the views that they were getting on their channel and their videos and things like that. And man, I found myself being jealous. It was sending me down a negative path, a negative state of mind where I was dealing with a little mini bout of depression because I was so consumed with what was going on in other people's lives that I wasn't even able to look at what was going on in my own ministry. And my friend, the same thing will happen to you. As you invite the spirit of jealousy, this issue of jealousy in your life, it can ultimately lead to depression. But the second danger of allowing jealousy to go undealt with is that it can lead to anger. All right, so I want you to notice here how Saul reacted to David. Sometimes our anger can be expressed towards another person. Notice it says here, the very next day, a tormenting spirit from God overwhelmed Saul, and he began to rave in his house like a madman. David was playing the harp as he did each day, but Saul had a spear in his hand, and he suddenly hurled it at David, intending to pin him to the wall, but David escaped him twice. Now, if you go on and read the story, you'll see that this happened several times where Saul literally tried to kill David. So sometimes our jealousy can lead to us literally being angry towards the people that we are jealous of, but it can also lead to us being angry at God because there's something in us that says, God, why won't you give me what I want? You have the power to change my situation. You have the power to give me more money, to give me a spouse, to give me children, to make my marriage better. And yet you sit up there in heaven and you do nothing, and you let me stay here and wallow in defeat and lack and whatever it is that you feel like you don't have from God. And sometimes if you don't deal with your jealousy, it can lead to you being angry with God. The third thing that we see is that if we don't deal with our jealousy can cause us to have surface level relationships rather than intimate relationships. And if you read the story, you'll see that Saul sent David off. He was like, hey, I don't even want to deal with you. I don't even want to be around you because being around you reminds me of everything that I want to happen in my own personal life. And so sometimes we don't want to be around the people that we are jealous of because being around them, being around their children, being around their marriage, being in their home where we see all the good things and nice things that they have, it's just too much for us to deal with. And as a result, we avoid them or we settle for a surface level relationship with the people that we claim to love because we aren't willing to deal with our own feelings of insecurity and jealousy. And let me tell you when jealousy actually becomes an even bigger problem. You see, there's one aspect where we say, you know what, I want to have what I see other people having. But it really becomes an issue whenever you say to yourself secretly, I wish they didn't have what they have. When you start wishing that other people didn't have success, that bad things start to happen to them so that things will be evened out, that is a sign when jealousy can become a major issue. And the Bible speaks about this. It says in Proverbs 24:17, don't rejoice when your enemies fall. Don't be happy when they stumble. Another way that jealousy can be dangerous in our lives is that it sends us into what I call the happiness trap. And this is the idea that we buy into the lie that if I have this thing, if I have children, if I get married, if I have more money, if I have a nicer house, if I have more subscribers, or I get more views, or whatever it is that you're trying to get out of life, then and only then will I be happy, not realizing that oftentimes you can have all the things that you're jealous of other people that you see that they have. And these things don't make you happy because nothing outside of God will make you happy. All you have to do in order to prove that is to read the book of Ecclesiastes, where Solomon had all the women, all the wealth, he had the wine, he had the work, he had all the different things that any man would ever dream of having. And yet he said it was all like chasing after the wind. It was meaningless. He was still not satisfied. Another huge danger of jealousy is that it can create false motivation. Now, what do I mean by that? Ecclesiastes 4:4 says this, then I observed that most people are motivated to success because they envy their neighbors, but this too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. See, when you and I are jealous of somebody else, what happens is our entire motivation, everything that we do is motivated by a desire to catch up, to compete, to dominate, and even to beat this person that we are jealous of. So let's take money for an example. There's nothing evil about wanting to make more money, but whenever your motivation is you want to make more money because you see the person down the street making more money, that's when it can become an issue, because this desire to compete and catch up and dominate can literally consume every single thing, every single decision that you make, and everything that you do in your life is now motivated out of this place where you're trying to catch up to those around you. you. Now, if you read the rest of Saul's story, you'll see that his jealousy and his insecurities literally led to his destruction. But the good news for you and I is that it doesn't have to be that way. So what I want to share with you is the third thing in this video, which is how can you and I practically and tangibly deal with these feelings of envy and jealousy. And the first thing that I want to share with you is that, listen, it's normal. It's not something that you should say, well, there's something wrong with me because I am jealous or I'm having feelings of envy. This is a natural emotion. It's a natural feeling that every single one of us deal with. What we need to be able to do is figure out how we can deal with these feelings of jealousy so that it does not eat us away from the inside, which is what I'm going to focus on in the rest of these tips. Okay, so number two, as cliche as it sounds, I want to encourage you to focus in on the things that God is doing in your life and celebrate those things. Now, let me just tell you, that's what I had to do. Because earlier this year, whenever I was going through my situation where I was just so frustrated about the YouTube algorithm and different things of that nature, God had to tap me on the shoulder and be like, do you see what I'm doing in your life? As a matter of fact, God had to use my wife to remind me of the blessings. Listen, I just published a book back in June. I should be thankful for that. If you haven't picked up your copy, I would love for you to support me and get your hands on the copy of Misled. You can get a link in the description box below. But I just published a book. I was getting invitations to speak at conferences all over the country. I've got a thriving online community where I have the opportunity and the privilege to pour into people through Bible study and online platforms. We have a growing online education platform called the Let's Equip Academy, where we have online courses that will help people become biblically literate so that you can actually get a seminary level education in terms of how to study the Word of God at a fraction of the cost. Listen, I've had to realize, God, you've given me so many things to be thankful for. A wonderful wife, healthy children, home to live in, all these different things. And so God had to show me, listen, don't focus on the things that you don't have. Don't focus on the things that you see other people having. Instead, you need to thank me and celebrate me for all of the blessings that I have bestowed on in your life. Now, the third thing I want to encourage you to do, and some of you may need to do this right away, is you might need to take a break from social media, because social media is a breeding ground for jealousy, for comparison, because what happens is you and I will compare our behind the scenes reality with somebody else's highlight reel. And when we do that, we're going to lose every single time, because what people post online are the positives, things that are happy. We don't post normally the negatives. And so we're comparing what's all this negative stuff in our lives and what we don't have with what we perceive, there's the key word, other people having. And so sometimes it's a good practice to just take a break from social media so you can recenter and refocus yourself on the things of God. Now, number 4 is going to be a tough one, and that would be to communicate it. So if you have these feelings of jealousy and envy, you may need to communicate these feelings with a friend, a coworker, a family member, a trusted mentor, a spiritual leader, or even a counselor, and get this off your chest so they can help you process these feelings. But more importantly, you may need to communicate your feelings of jealousy to the person that you are jealous of. Now, I will tell you that this is going to take an extreme level of humility, because in doing this, you're basically admitting weakness. You're admitting your insecurities. You're admitting to the other person that their life is better than yours, right? And many people don't have the humility to do that. But if you can do that, oftentimes what happens is it'll open up the lines of communication between you and the person that you're jealous of. And you might even see that that other person might share some areas where they may be jealous of you, or they're jealous of other people. And you'll start to see that God can actually use that communication as a way of actually bringing you closer together. Okay, so the fifth thing that I want to encourage you to do is to change what you can. So sometimes we're jealous of people over things that we cannot change, whether it's something about our personality, or maybe it's something about our physical makeup that we're just not able to change, or maybe we are not able to have children. And so there's certain things that are in God's hand, but there might be some other things where you're jealous of some other people, but you can change it. You can actually have the things that you're jealous of if you're willing to maybe learn from the person, which is where the communication with that person that you're jealous of can come in, because maybe they can help you achieve and obtain some of the things that you're jealous of them. But not only that, you can oftentimes obtain some of the things that you are jealous of other people through hard work, discipline, mixed in with a little bit of courage as well. And then the final thing that I want to encourage you to do to overcome feelings of jealousy and envy is going to be a difficult one, and that is to force yourself to celebrate the successes of others. Listen, Romans 12:15, it says, "Be happy with those who are happy and weep with those who weep." Listen, this is a step in the right direction for you to be able to say, you know what, I am going to force myself to celebrate the things that I see in other people's lives, how God is blessing them. And if you want to take it a step further, pray for them, pray for their success, pray that God will continue to bless them. If you can do those things, you are taking steps in the right direction of overcoming jealousy and envy. So, my friend, as I mentioned, jealousy and envy is something that we all deal with, and I want to encourage you not to beat yourself up about it. It is a natural human emotion, but hopefully these tips in this video will help you get clarity and get a grasp on jealousy so that it does not eat you up from the inside and destroy you like it did King Saul. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.